We're ready.
You're good.
Welcome to this workshop regarding policies and procedures of the county. We have Gary McLean with us here to review our chapters 3, 4, and 5, which have been provided to us. Thank you for getting this to us in advance so that we could review those and the changes in there. So Mr. McLean, I'll turn the floor over to you to present to us, and then we'll open it up for any questions we may have.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's been a few weeks since we have discussed some of these, so we'll try to get back on track. Just a quick summary. We've done quite a bit of work with chapter 3, and I think most of the changes are in there. Commissioner Smith mentioned one minor change that we had corrected in previous chapters that needed to be consistent, and that was under the definition of full-time. We had changed it in an earlier chapter to define full-time as 40 hours and less than that as part-time, and so we made that change here also. Thanks for that catch. That was good. We had quite a bit of discussion, just gives up to speed with things like meal breaks and those things, and those have been addressed and I believe captured in here, as well as travel time. I think we got those pinned down, and also some issues, again, travel time and vehicle use. I think we got those parts done. One of the sections that was removed from 3 and put in 2 because it fit in better and was also addressed, and was section 3, paragraph J, that addressed on-call situations. That was moved to chapter 4. Fit in better with the more robust discussion that was already in 4, addressing on-call situations, and you'll see that thorough discussion in chapter 4. So is there, I think, just by way of organization, is there any remaining concerns that we have on 3?
Commissioners, any? Nope. Okay.
On 4, there's a couple issues with 4 that I think were important amendments. 4 has to do with pay practices. One in particular that I think was important to add, which is the specific provision for elected official salaries, and that was added in under 2, citing the statute where the Board of County Commissioners sets those salaries in accordance with 18.3.107. So that was added in there. And then the other kind of I guess cleanup consolidation was with respect to the discussion on compensation for temporary work assignments. That was addressed in kind of 2 sections. We combined those into one section under section 4. I think that's much cleaner. And also, as you'll recall, although we addressed this previously, but the on-call compensation, if you remember, we updated that from $2 to $3 per hour. So that is now in chapter 4 under the pay practices, which is partly why we moved them from 3 to 4. And then obviously the elimination of comp time for on-call circumstances. So I think 3 and 4 had a lot of integrated items. I think we got them better organized within those 2 chapters. I think that's a little bit easier, but any feedback on 4, anything else we'd like to address on 4?
Maybe it's addressed elsewhere because this is pay policies.
Yeah.
How long is an employee allowed to be absent and still be considered an employee? Or do we have a policy on that?
We don't. And part of the reason that's very difficult to say, when you have individuals that are out and they have medical reasons, you get into ADA accommodations. So it's difficult to put a specific time on that. So it might mean that they've exceeded their 12 weeks of family medical leave, but they've got a doctor's appointment in a couple weeks, or they need a couple more weeks and they can come back after that. So it's kind of difficult. In fact, the current recommendation is not to put those hard and fast guidelines, because those are the guidelines that in fact run afoul of the concept with the ADA. So that's really kind of a case by case determination of whether the need for leave, additional leave beyond family medical leave, is a reasonable accommodation under the analysis of the ADA.
Yeah.
So that's a very tricky, and we run into that periodically, especially since we rely so much on specialized healthcare from out of the area, that getting into those people might mean a month to get a return to work or get a release or to get a final assessment. So we have to be somewhat flexible with that. So.
Good. I will totally leave that to you.
Yeah.
It sounds complex. Other questions or comments regarding 4? All right, on to 5.
Chapter 5, as you recall, we addressed earlier. In fact, at the start of this discussion, we addressed an initial amendment to this under the employee conduct section. This is an area that seems like you could go on and on and on. And so it's, I think we need to come to some level of comfort with how detailed we want with conduct and those things, because you can grocery list and grocery list and grocery list. But we're trying to address those areas where there's specific conduct that we want to address as being prohibited. And then also address those types of conduct which, undermine our ability to function efficiently, or that undermine morale or team unity, or those types of things. So, right now I didn't have anything else in 5, but this is as kind of an important section. So prior to coming up here, I was helping one of the department heads write a disciplinary letter. We were citing this section. If there are other things that need to be that come up, this is an area that I think will just evolve, but I don't think we want to end up with 14 pages either of trying to list every single possible offense. But if there are things that the board or others think are important and they run into, it seems like for the most part, we're meeting the needs of the elected officials and department heads in this area. But again, I'm certainly open to that, because everybody's got different operations in that regard.
Questions on 5 that we previously?
Sure, Chairman,
Mike?
I do have a question.
Yes.
And I'm sure you probably are already doing it, but we involve the government liability pool when we have lawsuits. Do you feel like these regulations cover the issues that would be most currently occurring?
Sure. Yeah, that's a good question.
Or do they review these, or?
Yeah, so they have risk management folks that we work with and have for a long time. I also, as you know, I'm on the board of the Wyoming Association of Risk Management on the property side, but we get access to all of the risk management stuff for their liability parts also. So one of the really neat things that we've got from that recently, which I've shared with John and Marty and Gene, is a contract guide for developing contracts, bond contracts, bid contracts. Their underwriters have put out a very comprehensive, I think, 245-page manual on contract language. As you know, we've had issues with some of the component units. I know we've had discussions about transferring risk. This document covers a lot of that. And so I think we'll be able to glean a lot of things. But to answer your question, the LGLP and Warren both provide a lot of good feedback in these areas. They also today are much more proactive. So meaning when they identify things that they're seeing from litigation or other things, they kick those out with recommended policies and practices. if you can believe this one, not all that long ago in the state of Wyoming, Doc will remember this because he was up in the Park County area, but there were a number of fire departments throughout the county that had bars in the fire departments. And they would, and
Why don't we anymore?
I'm not suggesting that he patroned them, but
That is not illegal.
yeah, so, but actually there was a significant accident that resulted from that. And so they, engaged in some practices and surveys. And I thought it was a joke, to be honest with you, but as it turned out, it was over half, especially in the small entities. And it was like a perk, I guess, that you go fight a fire and come back and have a cold one. And so yeah, I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened if you had a second fire, had another fire. I guess you just had to, you could only have half in a time or something. But anyway, those are the types of things that that they're trying to identify. So they're an important part of the process also. In addition, as you know, the Employers Council that we work with and have a subscription with, we get access to, and they're really important because some of the emerging legal trends, we're not part of those discussions. They actually participate in Washington and other places. And so we get information from them also. So we try to incorporate those in where it's appropriate. So yeah, it's trying to pull from all those sources to decide what's relevant for us and how far we want to go. And you don't want a 2,000-page manual, but you need to be able to address the things that are important. So it's that balancing act that's in there, and it's a changing environment. So I think that's the whole purpose of this exercise, is to try to keep these things current with the change in the operating environment.
Thank you. Any other questions or or discussion on chapter 5?
Well, good job. It seemed like that was a kind of heavy one.
That was, yeah.
I remember right on that. Sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Cheers. Yes.
Well, it does date that we did review that on 11 and 21. And we did give that a really thorough look then, because we did identify that. And I think the grievance chapter, which was 7 or 8.
Yeah.
It's two of the biggest issues in there. And so I think it looks really good. I don't see any recommendations at this point from my end.
Thank you. Good. Then we're on to, we got 13 total. How many you want to tackle next?
I think just looking at the numbers, I think 7's a fairly significant one, but at least 6 and 7 should be fine. Maybe even get them out. I think that what you see with even these is that there's some places where when you look at it, makes more sense to be somewhere else. So
Sure.
Our goal should be to try to also consolidate, not be repetitive, not to be redundant, to be concise. So if we can, I think by looking at 3, like 6, 7, 8, and then you've done these, there may be some stuff we need to pull or consolidate, and those we can kind of move through them better by looking at a couple, 2, 3 at a time, as opposed to one.
Sure.
Where you're like a little bit myopic. So
So
get those
6,
out.
7, and 8 for the next next time around. So that would
Yeah,
work
I think,
together. Okay.
if that's
Um,
okay with you.
yeah. And when would you like that? Next meeting, that means it need to be out like next week, or do you want the following meeting? Yeah.
6 is already done. I don't, 7 is a little bit more robust chapter. It's up to you guys. We can handle either.
Well, let's do it 2 meetings.
Okay,
Then
that's fine.
we'll look for out to us that week before.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I just asked for clarification because I think we gave mixed signals. At one point, we said, hold all this till we get it all done and we'll approve it all at once and put it on the website. At another point, I think we said, get this posted on the website. So what is it we're doing?
So from my standpoint, I think what we're going to save is the adoption of the final product to the end. Because as you see, some of the stuff we had to move from 3 to 4 and so on and so forth. So I don't think it worked well to try to approve chapter by chapter. But I think we can kind of move on from 3 now. And if there's other changes that affect that, we'll address those in those other things, with the idea that when we get to the end, there'll be an adoption of the whole that encompasses all the changes, and we'll put that up to the website. I think that's
So
what
there's
I-
no need to post this to the website till we get a final adoption. The old one is posted.
with
probably,
the-
but-
Yeah, with the exception, I think the concern was those couple items that we had addressed before. And that's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up. Just so everybody knows, I don't know if you had a chance to look at yet. What I had my staff do is put them up by chapters. So that is, you need to review them. It's easier for supervisors, easier for employees to go to specific chapters rather than open the whole document. So as we move through these, when we load them back up, there'll be chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, or whatever. So it's just easier in sections. So the approved changes that we just discussed, one with 5 and I think with 7, those are already up there with those approved chapters in the published manual, rather than having one big compendium that you have to sift through and scroll through pages on. So
Yeah.
anyway, that's already done.
Thank you.
Okay.
So we will do our next review on after our September 6th meeting. And so the week of the August 29th, we'll look for
Okay.
those goodies to be out from you. That sounds good.
Very good.
Yeah, appreciate the work. It's
Yeah.
going well. It's a good process and do appreciate it. Anything else for our workshop?
It's not 12 o'clock, so I don't know. We must have to have some discussion about something.
We're gonna have to adjourn then.
That doesn't happen often, so you better take.
All right, then we will close this meeting.